I guess you could call this part 2 of reviving my Setco 1929 60 beat master. Again, there's not much room up here to get a full shot of it, but anyway, there's the clock. It's running now. I lubricated it using a fine paintbrush and Mobil 1 5W20 oil as prescribed by the folks who know. And if I have the electricity turned off to the rewind mechanism, it runs for 53 minutes, which is all you get out of the mainspring because there's a stop that keeps it from going any longer than that. If you listen real close, if you can hear that well, the tick and the tock still aren't quite even, but the clock is running, and that's okay for now. I'll get to that one of these days. You can see I still have the face off, sitting over there, and I will be putting it on shortly. Got the face off because I'm working on just lubricated it to some degree. And I just wanted to point out that I now repaired and repackaged my power supply, which had a bad rectifier and, believe it or not, a bad fuse from 1972. So I'm going to turn that back on, and we see that we even have a little LED there. Kind of a big deal for today is that I've now got the program clock installed. I had taken it off in the early 70s and put it away somewhere, and I didn't remember where, and thought I'd thrown it away. But the other day I was digging for some piece of plumbing and found it in the back of the drawer full of pipe fittings. And there it is, and even all the little screws and all the little connectors and stuff were still in there. These are the components of the program clock mechanism for my standard electric time master clock, 60 beat master clock. And this is the main mechanism, which has clockwork behind it and a coil, magnet coil, to advance the mechanism once every minute. You see the 4 brushes here, whatever you want to call them. On this drum runs a paper tape mechanism that is fairly lengthy and goes down to these 2 idler rollers and then back around. Anyway, the idea is these paper tapes, each paper tape handle 2 channels, if you will, 2 circuits, which was 2 of these brushes, and the brushes would lay on the paper tape. People would punch out holes for the minute that they wanted the bells to ring. There's a day of the week wheel here, which could be set, and the pins could be pulled out so that the thing would or wouldn't operate on certain days of the week. And over here are 2, wherever they are here, yeah, 2 levers. This is the day lever to advance the day drum, and then this advances the minute drum by pushing down on this guy here. And this one here, the minute drum, that's attached to the pivot point for the magnet that drives the wheel. So this way you could manually advance the clock a minute at a time. Anyway, I took this mechanism off in probably I don't know when, 70s or something, and put it away in a drawer down here and forgot about it. I thought I had actually thrown it away. So now that I'm putting the clock back together, I just happened to run across it when I was looking for something else, and hopefully I found all the extra pins that came with it, the little brackets, connector brackets that go up in the clock, and hopefully all the screws and other paraphernalia. The clock got wet once when we had it stored in Chicago, and these little pieces of wood here are part of the switch mechanisms down in the bottom of the clock, and maybe I'll get around to putting them back in. And this guy here, which is a little rusty on the inside, normally had a cover on it, and extra paper tapes would be coiled up and stored in here. And one tiny little screw down there held that to the base of the clock. So, you know what, and I'm not even sure the function that this provides, so I'll find that out in a little while. So I've got it mounted back in there in the clock right now, and that's a 4-circuit program clock. It carries 2 paper tapes that you can see there and there, and they're 1 inch wide. And I made those up just by cutting out slices of paper and taping them together. Because they're very expensive to buy, and I didn't want to spend the money right now. So I just made the tapes up to show how they work. The tape that you see on there right now is what would be called a 12-hour tape. You see there's another little spindle right back there, and if you wanted a 24-hour tape, you'd get the longer tapes. They would go up and they would go around that bushing, back down around that guy, and then back up, and then that would give you the ability to punch out any minute in a whole 24-hour period to ring the bells and buzzers in the school building. You just heard it whine, that click click. That's kind of a big deal to me, because the old power supply that I had made and stuffed up there in the 1970s or even late 60s, it was just a transformer and 4 individual diodes in a bridge configuration, and when I powered the clock back up again, it no longer produced 24 volts, which I thought it should have been producing, but it was only producing 12 volts. So I found a bad diode, and actually a series power fuse that was had a high resistance, so I replaced the fuse and installed a modern full-wave bridge rectifier, put the whole thing in the box, and added a little LED that you can see glowing, and a switch so I can see from here whether it's on or not. So again, there's the program clock from another view. You can maybe see that there are some sprocket holes here, and I didn't punch them in the tapes either. But those sprocket holes would have kept the whole system in alignment. Just another interesting feature. This is a day wheel here. It's got the days of the week on it. Maybe I've got too much light here, and so you can manually set this. Well, I guess it needs a little oil, doesn't it? You can set that to any day of the week and either have the pins in or pins out, so that the clocks don't ring on weekends or only ring on Wednesdays, or whatever you want it to do. And as you can probably see, I haven't hooked up all the wiring yet. There are a whole bunch of little brass contacts that go here, and the back of the clock is a maze of wires where all that stuff connects to. I'll show you that in a second. This is the back side of the clock, and as you can see, there are just wires going all over the place. I guess that's how they wired the world back in those days, but these would be the 4 bell circuit wires going to the relays that are inside the clock. And then down here would be the lines that are in parallel with the winding mechanism that would advance the paper tapes 1 minute every minute. But you can see there are wires kind of going all over the place. And up on top, up here on that surface, there's a whole bunch of terminals too that you'd wire, do the main wiring to the building, including the power supply. Pretty soon you're going to hear the winding take place. I can't even see up here, but if there is anything to show, I will show that, just to show all the wiring that's going on there. And you can see that I've just got the power supply hooked up with a couple of phone stock clips. Anyway, that's how those clocks were wired back in those other days. Okay, there's my 60-beat master clock with the face reinstalled and hands in roughly the correct order. Program clock mechanism is barely available. The door's open, so you can kind of see what's going on. I haven't actually wired up the program clock yet. I'll get to that one of these days. Here are my two fake tapes. And my maintenance can and Mobil 1 5W20 oil. And it's been running for a couple of days. So if there is a part 3, I'll have to either remake or etch this to put all the original fancy stuff, Roman numerals and what have you, into the design. I may even try to use a CAD program and make tapes that I'll probably have to tape together, but make them accurate, and go to the trouble of punching a set of holes and hook the thing up. I don't know if I'll hook up any bells to it or not. I suppose I could just for fun. It's been running for a couple of days now, continuously, so I think I've got the basic lubrication and other bugs worked out. So, I guess that's it for now. Did you hear that little tick at the 59th second? That would have sent the update signal to all the clocks.